This is a dollar bill. 73 cents of every transaction on Earth flows through it. Armies march for it. Nations crumble without it. But something is happening. Quietly, deliberately, the world is walking away. The dollar's share of global reserves has fallen to 58% in 2024, its lowest level since 1994. If this pace continues, the dollar drops below 50% by 2034. America now owes $38.4 trillion, adding $6.12 billion to the debt every single day. Interest payments alone hit $981 billion last year, more than the nation spends on its entire military. This is not a crisis that arrives with sirens. It arrives in spreadsheets, in central bank vaults from Beijing to Brasilia, in currencies most Americans have never heard of. And when it tips, the shockwave won't just reshape finance, it will redefine power itself. This is the story of how the world's most powerful currency began to die. Much of our research draws from Federal Reserve reports, International Monetary Fund reserve data, and Treasury Department documents declassified in 2016. Links in the description. August 15, 1971, the Nixon White House suffocating under Vietnam War debt and a collapsing gold standard. President Richard Nixon closes the gold window, ending the dollar's convertibility to gold and destroying the Bretton Woods system that had governed global finance since 1944. In 6 months, $22 billion flees the United States. France sends a battleship to New York to retrieve its gold. The dollar teeters. But Nixon's team has a plan. In 1974, 1 year after the oil crisis, Washington and Riyadh strike a deal. Saudi Arabia would price oil in dollars, and the Saudis would invest billions in US Treasury bonds in exchange for military protection. The agreement remains secret until 2016, when Bloomberg News files a Freedom of Information Act request. It's elegant, brutal. Every nation on Earth needs oil. Now they need dollars to buy it, and those dollars flow back into American debt markets, funding the deficit, the military, the empire. The petrodollar is born. For 50 years this system holds. America prints money, the world accepts it. But empires don't collapse overnight, they erode. One decision at a time, one deficit at a time, one enemy at a time. March 2022, Russia invades Ukraine. Within days, Washington weaponizes the dollar, cutting Russia from SWIFT, the global banking system, freezing $300 billion in reserves. It's the financial equivalent of a nuclear strike. Russia is crippled, but the world is watching, and they're taking notes. China and Russia now conduct most of their bilateral trade in yuan and rubles, bypassing the dollar entirely. Brazil and China signed a yuan-real trade settlement agreement in 2023. India purchases Russian oil in rupees. The BRICS nations, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, plus new members like Iran, Egypt, and the UAE, account for 45% of the world's population. They control 32% of global natural gas and 43% of crude oil production. At the Kazan BRICS summit in 2024, Russia announced that 90% of Russia's trade settlements with BRICS nations now use national currencies, not dollars. BRICS Pay, a decentralized payment system, connects Russia's SPFS, China's CIPS, and India's UPI. China's cross-border interbank payment system links 4,800 banks in 185 countries as of January 2025. It's smaller than SWIFT, but it's growing. The BRICS nations aren't creating a unified currency, not yet. At the Rio summit in July 2025, no concrete progress toward a common currency was made. Putin himself stated in November 2024, "I have not sought to abandon the dollar, and we are not seeking to do so." But here's what they are doing: building parallel systems, alternative rails, escape routes. They're not overthrowing the dollar, they're making it optional. And option is all it takes. Central banks worldwide increased gold reserves by 1,045 metric tons in 2024, the third consecutive year exceeding 1,000 tons. Gold's share of foreign exchange reserves has doubled from below 10% in 2015 to over 23% now. China holds 2,280 tons, Russia 2,333. They're not selling dollars for euros or yen, they're buying an asset with no counterparty risk, no sanctions threat, no Washington control. Gold doesn't tweet, gold doesn't impose embargoes, gold just sits there, permanent, patient, waiting. The cracks are structural. As of December 2025, U.S. national debt stands at $38.40 trillion, 122.6% of GDP. The Congressional Budget Office projects debt will reach 156% of GDP by 2055. Every year, America must convince foreign buyers to purchase more treasury bonds, but foreign ownership of U.S. treasuries has fallen from above 50% during the financial crisis to 30% in early 2025. Foreign central banks hold $7.4 trillion in dollar-denominated assets, a number that has remained essentially flat since 2014. They're not dumping dollars, they're just not buying more. And when demand stagnates while supply explodes, only one thing gives: the price. In this case, the dollar's value, its purchasing power, its authority. America's economic dominance once rested on production. US GDP as a share of global GDP has fallen from 20% to 15% over the last 20 years. China's economy, measured by purchasing power parity, already exceeds America's. The dollar's reserve status isn't backed by economic might anymore. It's backed by momentum, by infrastructure built over decades, by the fact that everyone else uses it, so everyone else keeps using it.